Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. We're bringing you some Link to the Past Randomizer 2023 Tournament bracket stage action here. We have game one of this round of 64 matchup between Hydrapower and Magnit Handz. These two can be playing a best of three, and the winner of the series will get a matchup against Structural Mike in the round of 32. So calling this race today, I'm Reg. I'm joined by Cool Papa Bell. And I see MC Boss up on the top of the screen. What's that mean for us?
Yes, that means we have everything is a nice straight up open mode, except somebody clicked that little box that said full boss shuffle. So bosses can be just about anywhere. We're going to have 3 bosses that show up twice each, but they will not necessarily be the Light World bosses the way they are in the vanilla game. So some added fun for our runners there to keep track of not only can I get to the boss of this dungeon, but can I actually beat it when I get there?
Yep. And then just an extra cool little piece of functionality. We do have the compasses are going to be anywhere out in the world. And finding one and going to the respective dungeon, that'll tell us what the boss of that dungeon is. So if we find it, we can get that info. If we don't find it, then might walk into like the back of, say, Desert Palace and find a Trinex.
Yeah, I was so focused on the boss shuffle part, I forgot about the Mick part, which is we do have maps and compasses shuffled both around the world. So saw one already there with that compass to Ice Palace in Link's house.
Yep. And that map shuffle, same as it is with Key Sanity modes, means we don't know what dungeons are going to be crystals or pendants till we either find the map or beat it. We see Magnit Handz here actually starting with a Houlihan room start.
Interesting.
Yep. Enter the cave, jump into the water a bunch, offset the camera, and then you drop into a room with some money in it.
Yeah, this is a pretty common opening in things like cross keys, but I think Magnit Handz is thinking, well, with the map and compass shuffle, you're less likely to find either the bombs or the rupees that you need to buy the bombs, and so he's just going to go ahead and stock up on some cash right away here.
Yeah, if you're taking the so-called south route into Kakariko from Link's house here, or you can go over to the Lake Hylia shop. Looks like Magnit Handz is rejecting both and going up to Uncle, though, which Hydrapower started, didn't really get anything for.
This gives you this tree pole in addition to a couple of items, so giving yourself more chances for those bombs here, but no such luck this time around. Hydra's going to show us Lumberjack Ledge as well.
Yeah, and he's going to check the bush crab here, which is only 10 arrows. I'm kind of surprised he's not throwing things at enemies to kill them to try to get like a tier 2 or a tier 3 tree pole, but at Lumberjack, that was just some cash, it looked like. Maybe a 50.
So.
So let's see where Magnit Handz is going to go here.
All right, the 100 is a good safety for Hydra there. We'll be able to buy bombs if nothing else.
Yeah, it does kind of make the Houlihan start feel a little bit bad since Magnit Handz is taking the Lumberjack Lost Woods route instead of the Hylia shop or any other route. But you'll still have that extra 200, help pay off the bottle vendor, potential pay off Zora later. And he is going and killing the enemies, as I was kind of thinking Hydrapower might.
Nice full magic drop there. Not going to turn that down.
Yep, just guarantees if you find a magic using item, you can immediately just go to town with it.
And the usual play out of Hydra here, just checking the back of the tavern as the last free item before having to buy bombs if necessary. Ooh, Cane of Samaria.
It's a pretty solid find. It doesn't do anything for us logically for a long while at this point, but it's a weapon at least, so makes things like Mini Moldworm Cave pretty simple, although I expect to see bombs for that from both runners still just because it's faster.
Yeah, and Cane is one of the items that can affect your routing even when it's not affecting logic. Like, it makes that one check in Skull Woods a little bit easier and faster, right? Gives you more incentive to go into ice, since that makes that faster as well. So it's a really interesting one in the current state of the game.
Yeah, I think actually the most immediate that it might do for these runners is it might give them just increased confidence to do dark rooms. Like, I have no doubt that both of these runners in general can do those with no real issue, but it can be used very easily to help navigate in the dark.
There's a hammer in that first chest of the well.
Hammer's a great one, great weapon, and it's one of the 3 pieces of Dark World access. Ooh, mushroom as well. That's actually Kane Samaria suddenly relevant.
Mm-hmm. And with that hammer, we could just go do that fake powder right now if we felt like it.
Yeah, and actually with Hydrapower not getting the full magic drop, but is getting 3 bombs off the bottle vendor while he was full. Yeah, that feels terrible as a runner, but regardless, Hydrapower didn't get the full magic drop that Magnit Handz got, so he's going to have a fair bit easier of a time emptying his magic bar so that he can do that fake powder if he wants to. And hey, glove, bombs. I'm thinking we're going to see a save and quit back to the Sanctuary after these runners are done in Kakariko. Hit the back of the sewers.
Mm-hmm. It's an ether for an extremely slow way to drain your magic bar.
Well, can't use it without a sword, so...
Oh, that's right. That's no fun.
Yeah, it would be a great way to do it. I think it would actually pretty much empty out Hydra Powers in one shot right now. Might leave a little bit left over. Looks like he's not going for that regardless, though. Just 20 rupees on the library, so Hydra going to show us the race game and then grab it if it's good, save and quit, or just go get it, grab it regardless.
Oh, nice. A sword there on the race game.
We can use that Ether Medallion now.
Mm-hmm.
But Hydra Power, no interest in the fake powder shenanigans here. Gonna just save and quit. Right to Sanctuary, gonna drop down that grave. Meanwhile, Magnit Handz emptying the magic bar. Actually, this is probably faster than Ether, which seems unintuitive with how little magic Cane of Samaria takes.
Mm-hmm.
But Ether is that slow as an animation to do it multiple times.
Yeah. Very considerate of Magnit Handz to make all that noise with Cane of Samaria in the well, so it's not bothering any of the villagers.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we have chat asking where the Cane of Samaria was. That was in the back of the tavern, which both runners got that first thing in Kakariko because they both entered with no bombs, checked the back of the tavern, and bought bombs from the shop.
Feel bad for the innkeeper who's going to come back there and find his deeply broken magical item missing, but what can you do? Just 10 arrows off the magic bat, so Hydropower not going to feel bad for skipping out on that one.
And presumably, unless the mushroom turn-in is something good and he does that first, he'll go back there at some point. Maybe like combine it with, say, a smith play. But as long as he routes that back in efficiently, he's not going to lose any time going back to that.
Magnit Handz also going to rush the race game, so...
Yeah, and Sword is definitely a good reward for that right now. What I'm interested in is, are we going to see any 300 rupee packs either in Mini Moldorm Cave or in Ice Rod Cave? His Magnet Handz, having done the Houlihan opener, is why he's a bit behind on the route here. But he's only 150 or so rupees away from being able to afford Zora, while Hydrapower is very far away.
Yeah, a lot more likely for Magnit Handz to get to that point, and Zora is in logic at this point, of course, with that glove.
And there is the 300.
An Ice Rod as well.
With shuffled bosses, Ice Rod is always great to have, just because you never know where that Trinex is going to show up, or if it's going to show up twice. Magnit going to take the immediate mushroom turn in, though. I mean, he has no use for it, having done the fake powder already.
Yep. Or on Trinex, heaven forbid, if just a Trinex shows up in the middle of the GT climb and you haven't found Ice Rod yet. It's really nice to have that in your back pocket.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a couple times. We're going to the Dark World.
That is a Moon Pearl on the mushroom.
Yeah, and that means Hydrapower is going to have to turn in that mushroom, commit to turning it in. There's no skipping the pearl. And no fake flipper play at all from Hydrapower here. He doesn't have the money to pay Zora even after that 300. He doesn't have the pearl to get inside the waterfall. So the most he could do is the guy under the bridge and then scout the Zora ledge if he really wanted.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to skip those fake flipper checks if you've got no way into Waterfall Cave. But Magnit Handz will not probably be doing South Shore for quite a bit here. So
yeah, he'll either do it right now, or it's either going to be right now or it's going to be put off for a while. And with the hammer in hand, I think it's going to be put off for a little while. This is going to be Hype Cave.
Yep.
Hydrapower, meanwhile, gonna do the castle. We did see Magnit Handz take a couple seconds, try to debate whether he wanted to do the Dark Sewers backwards to get to Dark Cross. And we saw the map check. That was some sort of Pendant at Swamp and a 5-6 at Thieves Town. Got a refill, I guess, but that was disgusting.
Yeah, that was a very unhype hype cave right there.
I gotta say, the single rupee to just punctuate it there was nice.
Uh-huh. Thieves and Ice are 5-6 crystals today.
So Hydrapower having a good time with this guard here. Blue guards die immediately to the Ice Rod in one shot, but green guards are frozen, and you can throw them for Tempered Sword class damage. And chat talking about the fake powder trick there, and I do want to say that yes, it's not just for triggering the magic bat. If you're out of magic, as we see Tower of Hera there is a crystal as well. But if you're out of magic, you can use the mushroom as the powder, and it acts as the powder in every regard. I've seen more than a few people using it to get refills in Upstairs GT, for example.
Yeah, and the best use is fake powder, when you actually have powder, but just don't have the magic to do it.
Yep, that also works, and we got another map check there. I believe that was Pendant Pod on Magnit Handz side. So Hydrapower is going to actually check Sahasrara here in a second. And then after he does that, because the green pendant's the only missing one, we will, as viewers, have complete pendant information. Desert.
Magnit Handz taking this walk all the way up to Catfish. A lot of runners do like this, when you start Hype Cave, just cover everything in the East Dark World all at once, because you can pick up a lot of time, because this is, Pyramid and Catfish are both easily last locatable, so if you find something good here, you have a chance to pick up a lot of time on your opponent if you rush to.
Yep. Of course, in this case, the only thing we've seen so far, unless this Catfish spits out something good, is that Pendant pod information. Okay, that's good.
That feels real good.
The unfortunate part there is Pendant Swamp actually means that we don't really need those flippers. We can sequence break around them for every other flipper required check. But still feels good to have them and not have to worry, especially if the mirror just never shows up and we can't get into Swamp at all.
That also might send Magnit Handz to the Light World flipper checks.
Yeah, which he cannot afford to pay Zora right now, but as long as he does Mini Moldorm Cave first, would be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Magnit Handz does have complete information here. Hydrapower will not have complete Pendant Crystal information until he checks the Bomb Shop guy and gets that Palace of Darkness map off of the pyramid. No hammer equipped for Magnit. This is going to be just the regular South Shore play, presumably with all the flipper checks looped in as well. Meanwhile, we know on Hydrapower's side that the next progression for him is turning in that mushroom. Which actually, did we get a map check in Eastern Palace for the boss here? I know Hydra has that compass out of the dam that Magnit just picked up.
Yeah, I have not seen it yet.
Hydra may be thinking that since there is no bow, there's not much of a reason to check it, just because he can't get there regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, chat saying that we did have a check and it was a Helmsaur. So I just... Okay. Many thanks to chat for that, because I just completely missed it.
Oh, this is unlucky. Magnit Handz is doing some farming for rupees, probably before heading up to that Zora area. And then is going to find a 300 in Mini Moldorm Cave along the way.
This makes sense in his position, especially since it's only 3 farms to get to 500, but it is definitely feels bad watching this knowing that a 300 is coming.
Mm-hmm.
He is looping it in with Agina, though, which is always good. This is another one of those checks real easy to orphan and isolate. And on Hydrapower's side, I expect this to be a fake flipper to turn in the mushroom. Nope. But he did get nothing of real value out of Eastern Palace, including that baby shield. Looks like it's going to be a Gina for him as well. Maybe a couple bit of rupee farm, but...
Yeah, also thinking about the rupees. Interesting. I still think it might have made sense to do that mushroom fake flipper on the way, though, because you can always fake flipper back from the potion shop and just come back through the whirlpool and continue south if you want to.
Maybe what Hydrapower plans to do here is get the rupees, go turn in the mushroom, and then walk from there to Zora along the vanilla path.
Right. I forget you can actually walk to Zora. That is, allowed and everything.
Yeah, okay, never mind. It is a Gina, but yeah, walking to Zora is very much allowed. It's just, you usually don't see it because it's slower than the fake flipper route.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're turning in the mushroom specifically, it does combo decently.
vanilla intended strats. I just can't imagine it. So Magnit Handz is really being quite thorough with all of the checks that he's doing right now.
Yeah. Meanwhile, hydrapower has actually been reasonably thorough as well, except just has not done the one isolated one-off that actually gets in the progression he's looking for.
Uh-huh.
And a brief explanation of Fake Flipper, since we do have some people in chat who are less experienced, which is great. Everybody starts somewhere, and watching races is a great way to pick up on routing, on tech, and just generally how to play the game. I learned by watching tournaments and imitating runners. But Fake Flipper, you jump into the water, and then on the very first frame after you land, you screen transition. When you do the screen transition, the game doesn't actually check whether or not you have the flippers. It just lets you swim.
Yeah, so there are some very precise locations where you have to do it. So this screen right here that Magnit Handz is about to swim down to is a good one, since there is a screen transition right above a ledge where you can jump into the water. That's a usual spot that people do it. And the one whirlpool just south of Link's house is another very common spot, as we just saw Hydrapower do.
Right. Like, the trick is just to be as close to the screen transition as possible without actually transitioning, and then jump into the water, and while you're jumping, you hold the direction to change screens.
And Magnit Handz picking up a lamp in the waterfall cave there.
Yep. Lamp. I mean, that puts all the dark rooms and such in the game in logic. There's the real powder for those 10 sticks. But we do note, Magnit did not go for the man under the bridge. Didn't check that. Hydrapower getting all the disappointment out of the cave, and Magnit getting 10 more sticks.
We'll see how Hydra routes this Dark World. Has the hammer out, so also might be thinking about heading north across that bridge.
Yeah, and I really like starting, like, going across the bridge, going north to Pyramid and Catfish when you start the Dark World at Hype Cave specifically, although we're not seeing that from Hydrapower like we did from Magnit here. Because the way that I see it is that, like you said earlier, the Pyramid and especially Catfish are just easy checks to isolate if you don't do a route like that to start. And additionally, if you find the mitts, you can easily loop in the digging game, this stumpy check. You can loop all of that in with a Smith turn-in. Also, yeah, since it's being discussed in chat some, definitely big shout-outs to the Mentor Tournament. We actually have several runners in this main tournament, like even in the bracket stage here, that just came through the Mentor Tournament, and that's how they learned how to really play Rando and how to race it. It is a great way to level up your game and learn some of the details and intricacies. But we see Hydrapower not picking up anything around that South Dark World set of checks. Looks like Magnit's going to take that lamp, go up the mountain. Can't get to the east side unless we find a mirror or a hook shot, but lamp does mean this is in logic for him. So Hydra... Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it looks like Hydra's actually going to show us the Village of Outcasts and the North Dark World.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's really interesting because it feels like Magnit Handz, and I'm sort of speculating here, is a big believer in the whole spheres idea, right? Of like, you find an item and then the locations that item gives you access to, you know, are more likely to have progression from there, and then you just keep progressing based off of the most recent thing you've got. Because it sort of feels like he was like, okay, I've got flippers, I'm going to do water checks. You know, now I've got this lamp that I got off my water checks, so I've got to go someplace that's dark locked, like walking up the mountain. Now, also, a lot of runners just like to go straight up the mountain because the save and quit point is really useful for when you want to come back later, right? You're not really losing a whole lot of time because you were most likely going to have to do this walk anyway, and sometimes you get great information like knowing there's a bow on Spectacle Rock.
Yep. Unfortunately, trying to follow that lamp for Magnit Handz here, not really the way, because we know that the other dark locked stuff that's accessible right now is Eastern Palace, which is just a shield. But that bow info is pretty nice. There are 2 bows to be found, so that bow could potentially turn into silver arrows a bit later, but even that's good to know about.
But it's just interesting to me that Magnit Handz found that Moon Pearl so much sooner than Hydrapower, and yet Hydra is the first one into Village of Outcasts. So Magnit Handz has sort of been the book play, right, would be you check Hype Cave, you do a couple overworld checks on from that, and then you immediately go to Village of Outcasts. And Magnit Handz has been making choices that sort of run counter to that. Which, you know, got rewarded with the flippers, which is nice.
Yeah, and it is especially interesting to me with Thieves Town being a crystal and the hammer being in hand, because Thieves Town is a dungeon that, well, in boss shuffle mode, there actually is a concept of go mode Thieves Town. You don't have to go to the back like you do in normal modes. You don't have to pick up the maiden and escort it to the boss room. But in general, that is still a fully clearable crystal that he could have gone to a little while ago, even.
Yeah, and that's definitely one consideration, right? Is maybe Magnit Handz is like, I'm going to finish a bunch of overworld checks to make it more likely that I can beat whatever boss is in the first dungeon that I find, right? Trying to avoid those double dips.
Yeah, especially since we have not seen any Thieves Town compass, to my recollection here. Magnit Handz is actually stealing the key from under the pot there before getting the chest back here. Which, okay, does know about that magic under the pot, so can use that for Kane. And was that vanilla? I'm pretty sure that was vanilla on Hydrapower side.
Yes, indeed it was. Man, when I first started playing Rando, I would always skip the front of Skull Woods when I came into here and into Dark World, and just vanilla Fire Rod was the surest way for me to get last place in a race.
Yeah, it's vanilla anything is really, really tricky with a randomizer, because the general idea is that the items are shuffled. So you want to have the items to let you clear the location before you go there, so you don't have to come back later. But no, vanilla doesn't let you do that, and it is a valid shuffle still. But we are going to see Hydrapower go to the back here. And actually, it is worth noting that because of the conveyor belts and the spikes, the number of bosses that can be in the back here is actually somewhat limited.
Yeah, we can't get a Trinex. I can never keep straight what all the boss restrictions are, but...
I think it's no Trinex, and I think no Armos as well. Chat correcting, saying Trinex is the only one. Which, kind of a shame since we can kill Trinex, but the very nature of the back of this dungeon does make it pretty difficult to drop in there with a full magic bar, and that would be a super obnoxious fight regardless.
Yeah. Hydra did get a nice full magic drop off of using Ether on those Gibdos.
Oh, speaking of full magic bars.
Oh, so close and yet so far.
Yeah. It's double annoying because there actually is a glitch that lets you duplicate the fire rod damage using sword beams. And that would let Hydrapower open the shell here. And then if he did that, you could actually knock Cold Stare into the spikes to make for a relatively easy boss fight compared to other arenas.
Hmm.
But Fighter Sword, you can't do that.
This is
Now,
also where Magnit Handz might be able to use this lamp to preserve some magic and get to the back with full magic. Ooh, mirror, a nice consolation prize, though.
Yeah, definitely a very, very nice find. Just increases the routing efficiency there greatly. Lets you loop in all of those otherwise really obnoxious mirror lock checks.
Hmm.
But we'll see if Magnit Handz... No, Magnit Handz is not at all thinking about the possibility of like a Cold Stare in the back here. And is going to be using that mirror to get out as soon as it drops in.
Yeah, if you knew there was a Cold Stare in the back, you would play all this a little bit differently, but it's a lot of time to commit to when you don't know what boss you're going to wind up with.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, it's basically just, okay, save and quit instead of mirror? Wonder where he's going to go.
Oh, he's going to take that mirror straight up the mountain and grab the bow, of course.
Okay, yeah. Bow gets you Tower of Hera, which is another crystal that we can presumably do. Moldorm's Arena is actually even more limited than Mothula's in what can be there. And I don't think Argus can be there, which actually I think means we can defeat every other boss, magic permitting.
Yeah, the Vitreous fight in the Moldorm Arena is never fun, but...
Yeah, the strat for that is just not to jump down the ledge. Like, just do it all from the very top of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And then that makes using the hammer... Like, it's still a tricky fight, but it makes using the hammer a fair bit more reasonable. No, but skipping Hera for now. Gonna go do the east side of the mountain. Might come back for it after.
Yeah, this makes sense. You might find the hook shot, and then we can Hera pot up. Might just get a sword upgrade or something else that's going to help you with getting through Hera quickly.
Yeah, I didn't get a good look at the floating island there, but I think it was just arrows.
Yes, it was some sort of junk, and then my brain immediately forgot what it was.
I think I saw a number on it that's in the chat saying arrows. So if we do find the Titansmiths on the mountain, we could get that item with the mirror, but since it is just arrows, no need to do so. You know, hydrapower here. Oh, hook shot. The big thing Magnit Handz is probably looking for right now, besides the mitts.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I think that means that, again, magic bar permitting, hydrapower can actually kill every boss right now.
Yes. We are now at that point, which is a very nice feeling in boss shuffle. And here we're going to see hydrapower checking in on what the boss is immediately. Oh, nope. Okay, we're going to clear the back.
Just wanted that key under the pot to ensure that he could full clear the back.
I admit I did not see how many items we got out of the front, but given that we got a really good payoff from the hook shot, I would be very tempted to just check the boss, beat it if possible, and then make a decision about whether you want to finish the rest of the dungeon after that. Although I guess it's Map Compass Shuffle, so there's items everywhere.
Yeah, it's Map Compass Shuffle, plus we got the small key in the front, so the back is all items.
Yeah, it's fully loaded. Well then, that makes more sense to just go ahead and clear it all right now.
Yeah, like, you're here, may as well do it all now so that you never have to come back. And you don't have to blow the floor open either, because boss shuffle.
And hydrapower remembering that's the hardest strat in boss shuffle.
Yeah, save the bomb, save a couple seconds. One of the things that I really like making a point of here, especially with these high-level runners, if you save 1 second 100 times, that's 1 minute and 40 seconds. There's the flute. Fast travel option.
And I love when this happens. Our runners go in really different directions and both finding really interesting items. Hydrapower is going to save a bit of time on the mountain, but Magnit Handz will have access to that flute and fast travel sooner.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we're in a situation here for Magnit Handz where probably wouldn't have used that hookshot to Harapot even if he had it. Like, I know some runners will Harapot to skip a big key, but you'd be skipping the big chest as well in that case, and Map Compass Shuffle does, again, mean it's going to be an item.
Yeah, and just generally the way Magnit Handz has been running this seed, I think he was going through the basement no matter what. I think you're right.
Yeah, would be great to be able to skip this check with it being a self-locked small key, but that's not really the case this seed.
See, Hammer Armos. Not the most common of boss fights.
I do think, just on account of how awkward the hammer can be to use, its weird hitbox, I think most runners would probably opt for a combination of sword and either Fire Rod or Cane of Samaria strats. But hammer is working out. You gotta remember, hammer does tempered sword class damage, so that's 4 times the fighter sword here.
This is one of the things that I am bad at in modes like Boss Shuffle and Cross Keys, is these damage tables. When you get into these weird boss fights like this, like, what's my most efficient and quickest option here?
On Magnit Handz side, that Harapop for the big key only really rewarding with the Compass to Desert, which we know is the green pendant. And I mean, between the two runners, or even really just on Hydrapower side, Magnit will probably be there before long. We can kill every boss. So it's not super valuable information anymore, unfortunately, but Magnit does have it. And Vanilla Moldorm with a bunch of eyes.
That is a lot of eyes. And so yeah, Allison in chat is telling us that Tempered Sword actually does the same damage to Armos as Fighter Sword. In which case, the Cane I think would have been a much better choice, because that will also do Fighter Sword damage.
It'll do Fighter Sword damage, and it could hit several of them before dissipating or being manually exploded. But synchronized first crystal pickups, more or less. Yeah, Light World boss damage tables are weird, specifically to punish you for having the Master Sword and Ganon's Tower, for skipping out on that Tempered Sword in the vanilla game. Tempered Sword does less damage to them, just to make the refights harder.
Yeah, and then things like on the Armos, the Tempered Sword spins don't do any good, because they really want to encourage you to use the bow as well in the first fight, so... Weird little quirks. I don't know why Nintendo wasn't planning ahead for the randomizer when they made this game, but, you know.
Nah, they did such a good job of making the randomizer feel natural and open, regardless of what order you got your items in, and then they went and did that.
It really is incredible. The shortcuts that are built into the game to get you back quickly work ways so well for getting you places early in the randomizer. It's sort of wild how well it works out.
Yeah, and then even just like alternate routes that aren't necessarily intended as shortcuts, like the Titan's mitts to get to the mirror portal in the village, compared to hookshotting across the river. Just that sort of thing, or like the mirror or the hookshot to get to the east side of Death Mountain. Game's just full of stuff like that. Just makes this work very, very well.
And so Hydra is headed up to due north Dark World. Since he had already done the loop across the south, he doesn't have quite as much incentive to go down to like Smith Chain and Cave 45. But So I think we'll probably be transitioning this into a trip up Death Mountain with that hook shot. Or not, just going to save and quit out of the back there.
I think the save and quit is actually faster with the mirror in hand, because you can just do this.
Oh, right, we don't have mitts, so they can't even do smiths. So it'll just be Cave 45 for Hydropower on the South Dark World.
Right. I was kind of curious about whether Hydrapower might do the so-called turn jump to get fake flippers across to Catfish, but didn't go for that, so not going to get those flippers still. Which, again, with fake flippers being as relatively powerful of a trick as it is, the only thing that we actually need the flippers for in the game is Swamp Palace, which is a pendant.
Yeah, particularly in recent years as we've, gotten our Ancilla glitches, so we have new ways to do fake flippering. But Swamp Palace, just no way around.
Yeah, Magnit Handz leaving the bomb on the vanilla 300 rupee chest there. Always a good time. It's worth noting that Magnit Handz is not getting punished / Hydrapower is not getting rewarded for having hookshot on trip up Death Mountain, because no mitts means hookshot doesn't actually unlock any extra checks on the Light World Mountain.
Yeah, all it will do is potentially save some time in Tower of Hera, but yeah, no.
And that's if you're, and that's only if you're wanting to isolate that big chest.
Right.
No, there was nothing of note at all in the back of Thieves Town, right?
Yes, I don't think so. Just that hook shot that Magnit Handz got right there.
So there is potential for Magnit Handz to save a good chunk of time just by not going to the back here. And even if he does, he'll save at least a small chunk of time just having the bow for this fight. So I guess in that regard, you could say Magnit Handz rewarded going up the mountain without hookshot.
He's gonna rush the boss. Oh, just missed the one arrow there.
Yeah, I believe that this arena is smaller than the Eastern Palace boss arena, which is, I think, kind of throwing him off a bit, trying to get the position for the quick kill.
So yeah, we'll see if Magnit Handz dives back in.
I do consider that unlikely, going straight for the boss, but it's possible. Did we see Sick Kid on Hydrapower's side? I don't think so.
I think he might have mirrored, because I think they both got that first bottle off of blind, so...
Oh, right. Oh, it's just nothing anyways, so I'm going to assume Hydrapower probably did do it.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't remember. Okay, this smells like a match with Old Sarah and Skull Woods on Magnit Hand's side now, grabbing that potion.
Since we've been talking about the magic issues in dungeons that are not necessarily designed for you to have magic at the end, the bottles get some added value there.
Yep. Are we going to see like Graveyard Ledge, Bumper Ledge first, or straight into Skull Woods? Yeah, you're going to see the extra checks first, which no real reason not to. We can't actually pick up the Bumper Ledge check with no cape. Excuse me. but it's still going to be good information to have. We're not going to pick up the map, though. Magnit Handz already knows all the pendants and crystals. And then Graveyard Ledge, I mean, there's always potential for this to be something. We saw it on Hydra side earlier, so we know it's not, but for Magnit, even something just like Bombos would actually be pretty nice, even if potentially not required. A sword upgrade, obviously, or just progression. But for chat, kind of saying that progression on the Cold Stare and Skull Woods, do keep in mind, we have Pendant Pod on Magnit Hand's side is fully clearable. Is actually fully clearable on both runners' side, although Hydra doesn't have the lamp to put it fully into logic. And with those flippers, Magnit Hands can fully clear Pendant Swamp as well.
Pendant Pod or Pendant Swamp, what great choices.
Yeah, and I would expect Magnit, especially potentially following the spheres theory that you were laying out earlier, I would expect him to choose Swamp over Pod. Probably. Although, on the other hand, under that same theory, the lamp was behind the flippers and led to the mountain for the bow, so that I would actually indicate Pod, probably. But
yeah, I confess, I do not claim to understand Magnit Hand's routing, because he's being so thorough with the overworld checks, but then did skip out on the back of Thieves Town, like we were talking about earlier. So I think he and I think about the game a little bit differently, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Although Back of Thieves is the only particular skip he's got right now. Like, I guess there's a couple things that he just hasn't gotten around to. Like, we have not seen the front of the castle from him, although we did see it from Hydra. Dark Cross is still on the board as well, because we saw the key for the castle sequence in the back of the sewers.
Yeah, I mean, the Back of Thieves skip is a very common play, but there are a lot of very common skips that Magnit Hand's has not been making to this point, so...
And we did see Back of Thieves Town from Hydrapower in this scene.
Yes.
Magnit, now knowing that there's the Cold Stare back there, is trying to preserve the magic as much as possible, but still not full. But there is the pickup here that will put him on full.
And then can still use that blue potion, just spam out Fire Rod shots if he would like to.
Yes, but in this particular arena, the spike immunity only actually goes as far as Mothula, and it doesn't really apply to other bosses. So if you can knock the puffs into them, that's the same damage as the Fire Rod. Of course, with Fighter Sword, your only options for actually dealing damage are Hammer or Sword Spins, or this Fire Rod here that still shreds them very well.
Yep. The nice pinball action when you Fire Rod them into a spike is very satisfying.
Yep. And just doing that does mean that the spike overwrites your damage.
They're giving us the spike cave check here. Got a fairy just outside the cave, so he's fine.
Yeah, nothing to worry about here at all for him. Another potion coming in for Magnit Handz. I mean, considering he's already paid off Zora, paid off... No, Magnit Handz is not done the dig game, right?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think Magnit Handz has done, like, dig game, Stumpy, K45, that loop at all. Which does mean that... Sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I was going to say, he does have to mind his money at least a little bit here, because the dig game is 80 rupees. The big red bomb, if he finds the Titan's Mitts, is, I believe, another 100, so... Can only afford really one more blue potion before falling below that 180 threshold.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the potion is a good safety to have, though, right? Because, like, if you run into a Fighter Sword Trinex, for example, we do have the hammer, of course, so that makes it not so bad, but is a it's just a good backup to have that magic refill handy if you run into a weird boss fight like that.
Right, and it's just like you said earlier, several dungeons in this game are designed for you to use your magic throughout and then not need to use it on the boss, such as Skull Woods. But Pod, well, Magnit Handz has the lamp, so it doesn't really benefit from using Fire Rod to light torches in the back. But gonna do Eastern first regardless. And looks like Hydrapower already done all of Eastern Palace except the boss here. I still expect probably would go in for the boss first, just because that's the crystal. But then does have all the pod available afterwards.
Yeah, plenty of ways to route pod, especially when you have this mirror to duck back out of places when you need to.
Yeah, like, as far as pod goes, we've got pretty much everything we could ask for. At least on Magnit Handz side. Hydrapower missing the lamp, but does have everything to do the dark rooms with no difficulty. Magnit wanting to walk right by that chest, but realizes should probably grab it. And then it is somewhat common to see runners gamble on skipping this last chest behind the dark room in Eastern Palace, especially in modes that don't shuffle maps and compasses, just because it is a relatively slow check to get. But when you know it's an item, that's a lot harder to justify.
And I believe I've been told that it is a slight positive expected value to skip it when it's a 50-50. Even if you go back in, right? Even comparing the time to go back in to get it later, you come ahead slightly in the long run, but...
That's actually pretty interesting. I never would have guessed that it is.
Showing off the hook shot to the telepathic tile there. Always fun.
Yeah, it's another one of those things that you don't usually think about, very rarely actually see, but can be done. And now we do know that there's a Helmosaur waiting for Magnit Handz back here. Hydrapower going for a boss. I don't think we know what this one is.
Magnit stocking up on arrows. Never hurts.
Also, just something that I love has come out because of the boss shuffle mode is the use of bomb strats against the Helmosaur. If you use just hammer, which is conventional, it takes 17 hits to break that mask. However, each bomb, if it hits, is worth 4, so it's 4 bombs plus 1 hammer hit, as we saw here.
Over on Hydra's side, we see him get through the worst part of this in the dark, which is that dark turtle room, but just lights up the torch with the fire rod.
Yep, fire rod very much alleviates the difficulty of doing that room in the dark. And it's a moth. So, similar to fighting Moth in its native arena, if you hit Moth into the spikes, it won't actually do damage. So just don't. But other than that, it's a much simpler fight without the conveyors and without the spikes running around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a fun situation here. We've got Magnit Handz is on 4 dungeons cleared, has cleared the 3 shown plus Thieves Town. It's actually going to be on 5 cleared, assuming the full clear here of Palace of Darkness, which I see no reason he wouldn't. And then Hydrapower also going to be on 4 clear in relatively short order once he goes back into Eastern Palace with the bow. It's going to be 3 crystals and a pendant instead of 4 crystals.
Yeah, and since we are rapidly running out of checks here, we might still find something in the back of Pod. But if the answer turns out to be Swamp, that is going to be pretty significant for Magnit Handz, because Hydrapower will have to take that trip up and find the flippers on Catfish to get anything out of Swamp.
Yeah, but if we go with the assumption that Mitts are in Swamp, what does Hydrapower have left?
Yeah, not a whole lot, so it's probably the Pyramid Catfish walk next.
Yeah, the only other thing I'm thinking of is that cave south of the Haunted Grove, the cave 45 there.
Mm-hmm.
And then chat reminding me, yeah, we still have not seen Dark Cross either. Okay, so there's Bombos. That could pull Hydrapower back to Skull Woods to make an easier fight there. That's something else on the table for him as well.
Mm-hmm. And then, like we talked about before, that might be a time to walk across North Dark World and get over to Catfish with the Kern jump.
Right. So the problem for Hydrapower is if there's no progression here in the Dark Maze or in the Big Chest, he doesn't have any density left. Magnit Handz going for the hammer jump there, but the lineup wasn't quite right. Blue mail for Hydrapower. Probably pretty glad we found the mirror first, because that makes Death Warps a complete pain to do.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I'm looking over this. Besides Mitts, are Mitts potential go mode for Magnit Handz? Potentially Quake being the only other thing?
Yes, I believe that is the case. Well, and a second sword.
Second sword, yeah. You would presume that will show up somewhere along the way, but...
Uh-huh.
But I guess while both of these runners are kind of running through doing checks we've already done, we'll recap the bosses that we've seen a bit. Eastern Palace, the boss that Hydrapower going for now, is a Helmasaur King. In Tower of Hera, we had a Vanilla Moldorm. Palace of Darkness, which Magnit Handz is going to be going for in just a few seconds here, is a Mothula. Skull Woods had a Cold Stare for us that both runners had to bail on the first time, and Magnit Handz went back to later with a potion. And then in the back of Thieves Town was some Armos Knights. Not seen any duplicate bosses yet. Have not seen any bosses from a dungeon that's not lit up on the tracker for somebody.
And Magnit Handz is bailing on that Helmasaur. Well, not Helmasaur, but the pod boss. Actually a Mothula. But that's totally understandable. I think that is an extremely reasonable spot to just leave behind, because it's such a long trip to get down to that boss for a pendant that may or may not be in any way useful, but most likely won't be.
Most likely won't be, but Twitch chat is as Twitch chat does, and is suggesting Book in Swamp Palace.
Yeah, it feels like Book is about the only thing that could progress us without getting us into go mode. It would sort of be a fetch quest to Desert.
Yeah.
essentially.
Booth would be a fetch quest to Bonkrock's King's Tomb.
That's also true.
And then, other than that, Shovel is a fetch quest on its own, and that really is about it.
I think skipping the pod boss also makes a lot of sense when Magnit Handz is staring at this full clearable swamp, which has a lot of items in it as well.
Yep. Just kind of gambling that it's not literally exactly the Master Sword pedestal or on that boss itself.
Yeah.
Those two checks versus everything else in the world. So, Hydrapower got the hammer here. This is looking like Dark World. Is this going to just be a K45 that Magnet's doing now, and then where from there?
Yeah, might be then walk back over the pyramid.
For Hydrapower's sake, because this is looking like we're out of places not called Swamp Palace at this point. Well, I think it's Swamp Palace or Dark Cross between both runners. I think that's it.
Yeah.
And chat's listing off checks. We saw a Graveyard Ledge on both, and it was trash. Catfish had the flippers, so that's where Hydrapower needs to go if it's not in Dark Cross. And I'm just... no other checks coming to mind.
Okay, so it looks like Hydra's going to walk to pyramid from here. That makes sense.
I do believe this is actually faster than fluting to 4 and using the portal south of Link's house to get to pyramid. And I do just want to point out, if the answer is Dark Cross, when Magnit Handz did Active Escape and pulled the key out of there, he did run back and forth for like 3 seconds trying to decide to go for Dark Cross without the lamp, but opted not to. Good news for Hydrapower here. Finishing out this route is going to get the flippers, which will pull him into Swamp, which is very likely to be the progression at this point.
Oh, and while we're at the pyramid, let's go to Dark Cross.
Hydrapower has already done the front of the castle, so Dark Cross is the only check left here for him. But I do like combining this in with Pyramid in general. And for people showing up wondering who's got a lead, it's kind of hard to say right now. We will have a lot more clarity after this Dark Cross check from Hydrapower. If progression is here, then Hydrapower is actually in pretty good shape. And if it's not here, it's just got to be in Swamp Palace where Magnit Handz is. And Hydrapower is not going to be too far behind to that, but does have to go to Catfish for the flippers before he can get in here.
Yeah, but it sort of does feel like the only way that Hydra is in the lead is if the mitts are right here. And just a heart piece.
Yep, so we are going to see left side swamp first for Magnit Handz here, going to flood this key, and then use the diver down trick to walk on the water and get it back.
So yeah, Hydra has nothing left to do but walk up and grab his flippers off of Catfish, and then we'll almost certainly be in Swamp immediately after that. Just a question of how many of the flipper checks he wants to clean up.
Yeah, because Hydrapower does... Actually, Hydrapower can mirror from Catfish to Zora and get all of those checks. Will have incentive to grab that powder since I don't believe he fake powdered earlier.
Yep, that is true.
But we know that doing the powder check is going to be nothing, and I would assume after doing the Zora area checks it is going to be Swamp for Hydrapower. I don't get the feeling that was the item Hydrapower wanted to see there. And blue cane for Magnet Hands, it's not really anything useful, to be honest, at this point. I guess it does put Spike Cave into logic, which would be a new check for Magnet Hands, but we did see Hydrapower brute force that earlier out of logic and not get anything.
Right. And I did say that the only way Hydra had the lead is if he found Boots and Dark Cross. Chat is floating the potential Mitts on pedestal, which I think would give the edge back to Hydra since he did stay in pod and take out the boss there for that first pendant. We would have to find a book and make our way through Desert Palace, but it is an outside chance.
Yeah, that's a tricky one just because the book would pretty much have to be here in Swamp for it, which would almost certainly send Hydrapower to Desert next, looped in with Bombo's tablet. And then at that point, Magnet Hand's options would basically be down to front of castle, including Dark Cross, or going back to, what's it called, Palace of Darkness for that Mothula kill in last Pendant.
Wow, and nothing yet in Swamp Palace. And I believe we've got the big key is on the boss, so we're gonna have to head back in for the big chest.
Yeah. Remember, the big key can be self-locked.
Ah, yes, I guess that's true.
It's still 50-50 whether it's self-locked or on the boss and forcing us to come back in.
But just to loop back to what we said, half an hour ago when Magnet Hand sort of rushed the catfish, this is exactly the payoff that he was looking for, is that those flippers wind up being required and Hydra basically last locations them.
Yep. Also, I was making fun of the Canaberna before, but this fight is actually pretty good for it. Because you turn it on and you just walk on top of him.
And Blind just hands us the mitts there in Swamp Palace. That will put Magnet Hands into go mode.
Yeah, plus or minus the sword, but there are still 3 of those to be found, and we will be at least clearing out Misery Mire and Turtle Rock looking for keys, because those are very linear dungeons. We could hypothetically need Quake as well, but we'll say 2/3 chance of go mode, even though that's not the exact math.
Hydra's on the full tour of things he potentially could have done earlier, going back to this powder check that he chose not to fake powder at the very beginning of the siege.
Yeah, we did have Hammer plus Cane plus Mushroom leaving Kakariko, so could have, did not.
And we've just got Ether on Mire, so we can get in there.
Yep, so just what opens Turtle Rock is the only outstanding question at this point, and there is the sword for Magnet Hands. Now, Master Sword with no silver arrows is still a fairly obnoxious Ganon fight, and a fairly slow one, but it is one that I think these runners are pretty well acquainted with, won't have any real difficulty with.
So Hydrapower right now, pretty much a full swamp behind, does have the potential to pick up some time if he decides to rush to the boss rather than doing the left side first.
Yeah, but unfortunately that is going to be pretty much the only way time gets saved here. Good use of Samaria block there in the second room of Mire up for Magnet Hands to kill those 2 Wizrobes. And there's small keys, 2 of them. Oh, well, 2 including the pot. Haven't seen the bridge chest yet, actually. I'm sorry for that. Normally you see the bridge chest first, but Spike first is also all well and good.
I can see that being the habit for hoverers who want to give them 2 chests before they potentially hover from one bridge to the other.
Yep. Although with no boots in hand, that unfortunately wouldn't happen here regardless.
That would be a very difficult hover to do with no boots.
Yeah. Would be fun to see somebody try. At least for a few seconds. Yeah, just play, what is it, Oracle of Ages randomizer, have the Rock's Cape, and just fly. So, boots.
Or just find the boots. There we go.
And Magnet Handz not getting a small key in that northern chest does mean gonna put off the cutscene chest. A small key would guarantee that the big key would be in the cutscene chest to the south, but an item makes no guarantee at all.
So Magnit Handz showing off that rail clip and very cleanly then getting out of the dash 1 tile later to just run to the left. That was very well practiced.
Yeah, and that trick is actually a so-called floor state extension, which is fundamentally the same as the icebreaker trick we'll be seeing from presumably both runners when they get to Ice Palace. But you trick the game into thinking that you're still exiting the door, and it just lets you walk through whatever.
Yeah, anyone who's watched any glitch runs or no logic seeds knows that doors in this game are incredibly broken.
But in typically very fun ways, at least.
Yeah.
And no spooky action for Magnet Handz there. Gonna be hitting the switches the conventional way. Does Magnet Handz still have that potion he bought earlier?
As far as I know, yes. Because we've just had easy boss fights since then, so...
Okay, because I was going to say if he didn't, that potentially not having the safety of the magic powder in his back pocket might come into play, especially with all the anti-fairies in the Dark World dungeons. But the potion means presumably no problem, as we're seeing Burna plus dash strats, and I can feel the lag from here.
Uh-huh.
And you know, we've seen bosses for every dungeon in this at this point except Desert, Ice, Turtle Rock. We have not seen any duplicates.
Mm-hmm.
We have not seen Landmolas. We have not seen Argus. We have not seen Trinex. Which, granted, we can kill all of them. So, not a huge deal. But just interesting. Actually, the fact that we haven't seen Trinex could be considered particularly spooky if the Ganon's Tower Big Key is in that vanilla room behind the ice fight.
Yeah, the Ice Trinex is not a fun one.
Especially considering we've only got 2 swords right now. Decent chance we find a third before then, but by no means guaranteed. Hydrapower mirroring out. I don't understand this one.
Yeah, not finishing the boss is very strange to me there.
Like, he checked his menu first, and then just... It might have just been something like lost sight of for a sec of the fact that it was a map compass shuffled, saw one missing, and assumed it was on the boss. That's the only thing I can think of at this point. He does still have a few other checks left. Like, he's going to go kill the Cold Stare here, presumably. but is going to have to very much get back and kill that blind for the mitts. Yeah. On Magnet Hand's side here, I did mention the door state extension, the icebreaker tech earlier. Gonna see it here. Gonna position himself somewhat precisely. Use the cane. And then if you do it precisely, it will just extend your door state and let you walk through that thick rail just like that.
Because, yeah, when you are in a door, the game kind of lets you move no matter what, because it wants to be sure you can get out of the door. And so tricking it to make it think you're in a door works out really well in our favor.
Right. That is pretty much exactly what's going on there. And we are seeing just the easy checks along the way for Magnit here. Is in go mode. Well, pending Quake. That's really the only thing that could stop him from clearing the seed at this point. Don't really expect him to go out of his way for the so-called iced tea room. But it is possible, I guess, if he's real worried about that.
I mean, it's part of what's so great about the icebreaker glitch is that you get through the dungeon quickly, but you just walk past most of the chests on the way to the boss. Fantastic.
Yeah, as opposed to the bomb jump route where you've got that long stretch in the middle of the dungeon where there just are no chests. And then you're just kind of dumped at a three-way intersection where there's some chests in every direction, but only one actually leads to the boss.
I remember I just had no sense of the layout of what Ice Palace looked like as a kid. I was probably 30 or 40 rando seeds in before I was like, okay, now I understand how this dungeon works.
And here's our first duplicate boss of the day, the Armos Knights. And this room not being weirdly shaped, much easier quick kill for Magnet Hands. And just for chat, inquiring about the name a little bit, because it is a bit unintuitive until it's explained to you. The Ice Tea Room in Ice Palace it's a room in Ice Palace that is shaped like a sideways T. That's it. That's the joke. The pun is intentional, but that's still the joke.
Hydra's staring at his menu for a while. I don't know if he's trying to figure out something that he's skipped.
It's got to be back to Swamp for Hydra, though. It's on the Swamp Palace boss.
Yeah, is he somehow thinking that the boss doesn't have an item, forgetting about the map compass shuffle?
Like, that's the only reason I can think of for him to have mirrored out at all. Fluting to 5, can't turn in the green pendant. You don't have it. You've done everything else in the region. Is this going to be back to... Yeah, this will be back to Swamp for Hydrapower. No, Magnet's go mode or doing more checks? More checks.
Of course, but I don't think this has...
here.
Yeah, I don't think this has strong implications for our race, because there are so many checks right here, and then if it's not here, it's just like, well, you go finish Smith Chain, and then you do Pyramid Fairy, and it's got to be in one of those, so...
Yep. Kate. But we've seen Bumper Ledge, though, and it's not anything, so... And there it is.
Yep, key under the mat, as usual.
Yeah, key under the mat, a fairly common, memorable thing to happen in Rando. It's put, especially with Turtle Rock, because there's 6-7 checks right next to it, even if you don't count the Light World checks. But even in Mire, it feels like it comes up disproportionately. And now we get to see Magnit Handz will go through the long and relatively linear dungeon Turtle Rock here. Gonna open up pretty much every chest in it, I would imagine, just looking for keys. We'll probably try to skip the lava chest in the middle that has the big key usually, though.
Yeah, there's the very common gamble that runners will make if the key layout is right, that you steal the pokey key and then you skip lava chest and the big chest, and you only get burned if both of those have a small key in them.
Yeah, and I think that's, what, like a 3 to 5% of the time that happens statistically?
Yeah, something very low like that. And it's hit the point where that skip is so much the meta play that you don't even really lose time, because if it burns you, it's also going to burn your opponent, so...
Yeah, I will say, personally, I am not a big fan of that skip, but it is really the only thing that you can go mode in Turtle Rock for the most part, besides potentially skipping a laser bridge.
Yeah, because just any of these side rooms could have the big key at the beginning, so you have to check them all, and then once you get to the end, you're always, pretty much always, you know, need to find the next small key to keep going, so...
Well, that's just the story of the whole dungeon here, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, with no big key in hand here, there is not going to be a lava chest skip to be had. So, gonna see everything in the dungeon, pretty much. Non-hydrapower side now has the mitts, has 2 pendants. And it's going to be off Mire plus Ice for him now.
And this has all been playing into Magnit Hand's favor to keep this lead, is there's sort of only one thing to do from Swamp until the end of the game, and so they've both got to follow the same path, and as long as Magnit Hand's just executes the way he has been, then he is going to stay well ahead of Hydrapower from the looks of things.
Yeah, it's like you could choose to do Ice first, or you could choose to do Mire first. But it really doesn't make a difference either way in the end. And then you get up to Turtle Rock at the very end, and your Wake Medallion to get in is just in Hookshot Cave, so there's no worries there at all.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the big chest skip earlier, but again, with no skipping the vanilla big key chest, not able to steal that key off the pokey earlier. Gonna have to check this just in case it is a small key. And we'll see how Hydrapower chooses to route Misery and Mire here. There are a couple different ways to do it, but considering the big key is in the lobby, and also considering the boots are in the Firelock North, I don't think there's really a better route than what Magnit Handz did here.
Yeah, I mean, the worry is if you do the lobby first and then don't even go grab the boots, that would just be adding insult to injury for Hydra there.
Yeah, the good news there is that that's a pretty unlikely play, considering you have to go next to the torches rooms to hit the crystal switch to get there. But we will see on Magnet's side. Need a key off of Laser Bridge, so at this point probably just going to check all 4, hedging against Sword or Silver's being here. And just a shield instead, unfortunately. And, I mean, hydrapower's got a big key, got no boots, so I'm...
Looks like he's going to grab the one chest. Nope, he's hitting the switch again. Oof.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Of course, boots are not going to be required unless the big key is exactly on Ganon's tower torch, which is rather unlikely. But just not having that relatively fast movement is still a little bit annoying. Magnit Handz not having real success with a fire rod quick kill, but does have significantly more success with the ice rod there, and it's slightly slower projectile.
And that is crystal number 7 for Magnit Handz. He's headed straight into GT after this. So if you have any guesses for where this GT big key is going to show up, get those in chat real fast.
Something 22 locations, one has the big key. Pick a number, go. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that there's anybody around to do a channel point prediction for it, but you can still guess in chat if you choose. And there is hydrapower using that magic powder that he got that Magnit Handz didn't. Just coming down to the difference in Magnit Handz fake powdered, hydrapower did not, so he was incentivized to pick up the real powder later. So he has that bit of safety in his pocket for doing sword spin strats here. But is switching over to Kane now. Meanwhile, we saw on Magnit Hand's side the torch was just 20 rupees, so hydrapower not going to be punished for missing those boots in anything except the loss of speed.
Magnit giving us the Dark Magician strats here.
Yep. And this strat, well, A, silver arrows. B, it's actually named for a runner from the very first past randomizer tournament way back 2017, 6 years ago now. Way back in that tournament, every single runner did Hope Room first, then went full left. Like, there was no route that did Compass Room early. Except for one runner who went by the name Dark Magician, who did exactly the route that Magnit Handz is doing now. And sometimes it paid off for him. And because he was the only one doing it, this strat got named after him.
And as I understand, why did he do it? Because he hated killing the Stalfos in that route.
That sounds about right. Now, typically when you do this route and the big key is not there in the compass room, you grab this key and you mirror out, yeah. It is possible to continue all the way on to the Ice Armos fight, which won't be an Armos here. We've already seen 2 of those. But easy to understand if you call it such still. And for chat asking, yes, Dark Magician strat did do Armos before going right. Magnit Handz also did that.
Yes, but you go into the room and then you mirror back out of it as opposed to actually killing the Stalfos to get out, is the thing.
Right. And because you mirror out, you don't come back down and you don't do like that fire bar room, you don't do the fire snake room coming up here. You just go to Hope Room and the right side instead.
And GT routing is mostly a coin flip for the better part of the time, but I do like hitting the right side before going full left here out of Magnit Handz, because we talked about the possibility of this Ice Trinex, which would not be fun. So making those your absolute last checks before Trial Room, I think, is a very good idea.
Yeah, if you're even slightly concerned about that fight, or really even just not feeling like it, which we're almost 90 minutes into this race, so would make total sense if you didn't want to. But you do everything else first. And hey, I mean, we find half magic in here, you can just kind of spam rods, especially against the ice head. But doing that fight on ice still very annoying.
Yeah, and this way, even if you do, have to do that fight, you maximize your equipment before you get there.
Yeah, maybe we'll find a tempered sword as well in the so-called Bob chest.
Yeah, chat's right. This is number 18 coming up, Bob's chest. Or we'll just find the big key and not have to worry about it.
Yep.
18 is our winner. I do not... Oh, Gearhead Prime with the 18 guess, and Bastille and Q Silver. Secondary 18 guesses.
Congratulations, you won the guessing game. And Magnit Handz with 17 arrows now. Presumably going to use them against whatever boss is... Well, assuming the boss is vulnerable to them. We still haven't seen land molas, so I'm just kind of expecting vanilla land mos.
Also, a very nice restock in that second Guerrilla room there. Got a full magic and a fairy drop out of them.
Yep. Use the boomerang to catch the fairy, which is always pretty good to do. Good combination of sword spin and then half magic fire rod as well in the first room of the gauntlet. Bow is kind of unreliable here, especially against the stall kids. But fire rod, very fast moving projectile, and kills everything in one hit as well. Sword beam's very not reliable because you can't really knock these guys into the spikes directly with them. But regardless, Magnit Hand with that potion in hand, very good position to be aggressive with his magic use. Is a bit punished for it though because, try next. We'll see if he gets through this without having to burn that potion. I think the good news about fighting Trinex in arenas like this is the ice doesn't actually stick to the ground, but you do have that shooter kind of harassing you the whole time.
Yep, and that will be the blue potion coming out there as the ice head didn't really cooperate with getting hit by those fire rod shots. Nice dodge on the third neck there.
Yeah, kind of went a bit astray with some of those rod shots, but other than that, pretty solid fight from Magnit Handz here. Hydrapower, meanwhile, grabbing Quake, is in go mode himself, going to be right into Turtle Rock here. Oh, Trinex couldn't turn up against the shooter, so just turned around. Don't see that very often. So there are a few bosses that can't be at the top of Ganon's tower. Moldworm can be there, Helmasaur can be there, Moth can be there, Cold Stare, Vitreous, I think, can both be there. But yes. I don't think Armos can, don't think Landmolas can, don't think Blind or Argus can either. And obviously Trinex, no. So it's mostly simple bosses left, especially considering we've got the silver arrows. But Magnit Handz, if it is a Vitreous up there, gonna really have to mine that arrow count and save 4 for Ganon.
Yeah, we did pick up the shovel, so there is, I guess, always the option of just you hop down the pyramid and farm a few arrows before you drop into the Ganon fight, but would rather not have to do that. Oh, there is a tempered sword. That is an excellent find in the mini Helma room.
Yeah, and considering we full cleared the basement, the odds were pretty high that we'd find a sword up here, which definitely good reason to check. But we see Magnit Handz, Tempered Sword, Silvers in hand now, not doing anything. And here's Mothula. And with no spikes to absorb the damage, it is just 4 hits and go.
Leaving a couple bombs for the validation chest.
Yeah, it's the last chest of the game. There's no reason to open it in this situation. Like, Magnit Handz could potentially get, like, red mail or a refill off it. Could get, like, a bottle, I guess. But he's very well equipped. Nothing he particularly needs.
Yeah.
Good use of the cape to turn that real awkward Aga 2 pattern into a double. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, that's a very clever strat.
Blue Ball says no to the 3 cycle. But this'll do it. And for chat asking a bit of a recap on how Magnit Handz got so far ahead here, the first step that put him really ahead was his initial Dark World route was Hype Cave to Pyramid to Catfish. Catfish had the flippers, and the Titan's mitts that turned out to basically be go mode were on the Swamp Palace boss. Meanwhile, Hydrapower near last located those flippers, unfortunately, put him significantly behind in getting the swamp. And then also, even more unfortunate, Hydrapower mirrored out of swamp without killing the boss getting the mitts. So he had to go back and do that a second time. And that kind of just snowballed into what we are seeing here. But we do have Magnit Handz in the Ganon fight. I do believe, yes, 1 cycle phase 2. Just got to get it down from here.
I mean, Hydrapower, not the first person to get trolled by Catfish, and certainly will not be the last, so...
Absolutely not. Many, many runners very much dislike that location, and for a very, very good reason. He does get torch glitch there. He lit the left torch before the right one went out, so the right just never goes out. When you're doing a fight with the silver arrows, you will often see runners skip that so that they can line up easier doubles and triples by controlling the timing of the lighting, but Magnit Handz needs no such thing. 4 arrows into Ganon, and he is going to cross the bridge with a time of 1:36.29, taking game 1 of this best of 3.
Absolutely, GG's to Magnit Handz there. I think it's also worth saying, as far as Catfish trolling goes, Flippers and Mirror are the 2 worst items to be there, because you sort of think, oh, I'll do Catfish when I can Mirror to do the Flipper checks up there, right? At least certainly the way that Hydra routed this, that was certainly a potential play in his mind, but if the Flippers themselves are there, you never really get to that point, so...
Right. And it does look like we'll have both runners joining us in just a second here. And welcome, GG's. Congratulations, Magnit Handz.
GG's.
So I guess I see that you've both been talking about the seed in the race time room, so not going to really rehash that too much. But,
well, here's the good news. I got all the bad luck out of the way now. So it was all concentrated in this one game in every possible fashion, and so the game 2 should be much better. So that's what I'm gonna hope for. I'm laughing over here, you guys. Don't worry about it. I'm not like tilt off the face of the earth or anything. I'm just like, boy, I sure am dumb. I really smooth brained this one. So Can't count the items in a dungeon because and like I don't know, I was like smooth braining like stuff that I already knew. So it was like I did Harrow Basement because I knew that it was there would be a guaranteed item in the big chest. There wasn't an item that ended up being useful, but I'm like guaranteed item, right? And then in Swamp, I'm like, oh, must be the big key on the boss. I don't need it. I got everything. Everything's good. Goodbye. And then like Cold Stare drops nothing, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? I don't know what I did. I'm just like her. Like the real life derp emote. And then I'm like, well, and then I realized, well, even if the big key is on the boss, the big chest has a guaranteed item yet, numpty. So that felt pretty bad. But yeah, just like every time-consuming thing was wrong, and so I'm like, well, I'm still going to be in Mitz mode here. We just got to go. And then when Turtle Rock was Quake, I'm like, well, that might actually be good. This has to be the worst Quake of all time. And then I go to Hookshot Cave and it's there. I'm like, that was not it. So I don't know. It's fine. I what can you say?
Well, I mean, that's definitely how rando works. Is when you have garbage luck one seed, then it all turns around in the next one, right?
That's what I'm hoping for. So let's go with that.
That's why we've got best of 3 instead of best of 1 here.
Yes, for sure. But GG to Magnit Handz. I'm sure he played really well, and he's a great player and a cool dude, and I enjoyed playing against him. So, congrats again, my friend.
GG's my dude. Like I was telling you in the race room, I when I had got the flippers, I was like, Swamp. I'm like, have I made a unholy alliance with the flippers yet again? And it seems like I have. I can't stand those things. I don't know. This is going to be the running theme. I hate the flippers, but in this tournament, the flippers have been somewhat of a saving grace, which is a little goofy. Oh, you know what else is goofy? Powder being on Zora Ledge. That's goofy. That I was not going to get that after fake powdering. I'm like, you know what? If that's my undoing for safety, then that's my undoing. So.
Yeah, it seemed like Magnit, you were doing a lot of really thorough overworld checks early on, and then kind of putting off jumping into dungeons. Was that a planned thing for this particular mode?
Okay, so I'll explain it I'll do my best to explain it. So like, it's kind of hard for me to figure out how I'm gonna plan McBoss. Sometimes I hula hand, sometimes I don't. So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna hula hand, I'm going to Uncle anyway. So that just led into a gang of, all right, what do I need? What do I have to do? What feels, what's the word? Dense, but makes sense at the same time, right? So when I ended up getting money, I could have very easily just walked into Eastern, but I didn't want to walk into Eastern. So I said, forget that. And then it was just like, all right, Sank. I ended up getting all the stuff needed to, get into Dark World access after the mushrooms. I'm like, you know what? Let me just clear up Sphere 1 as much as I can so I don't have anything left over. And then if I do find flippers, then I'll just hopefully run into Zora money maybe. And then we ended up finding flippers in the pod map. So it was like, oh, I don't want to go to pod just yet. Let me wait, So I waited, did that, came back, did all the overworld stuff. But by the time I saw Cold Stare, I was like, and then the mirror as well. So the mirror kind of messed me up, and then Cold Stare messed me up at the same time. I'm like, all right, I went to the mountain. I know I'm going to need the mountain, so let's do that before we get up there. So seeing the bow was like, okay. But at that particular moment, I literally didn't know what to do. So I had a choice between, okay, let's go to pod, Eastern with this bow, or go to Thieves. And the weird thing about Thieves is that in my mind, I committed to doing the whole thing, but that was before I found the mirror, the bow, and then the flute. I'm like, oh, it's no way I'm going in the back. I just lose. I'll take this 50-50. I'll just lose. I'm not going to escape. I'm not going to Thieves. And it ended up paying off with that hook shot, so. In Thieves, I should say.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yes.
You didn't miss anything in the back. Surprise, there was nothing there. Yeah, all sorts of thorough stuff didn't work out, for me, because I'm thinking like, well, okay, I get the mirror and that's fine, but I'm still like the mountain's still out of logic. So I'm like, well, maybe there's a flute in like Thieves or something. I mean, I'm not gonna do a bunch of non-logic in logic stuff. That's a very time consuming. like overworld, walking a catfish and stuff just to get your mountain and logic. So I'm thinking like, well, maybe thieves, this has got 6 items. It could be something. So it wasn't, but it felt like the right play at the time. But like all the plays here just didn't really work out. And shout outs to having 7th, 8th magic at Skull Stare. That was it feels bad. So he messed me up too, but that's because I walked into him and died so that I could go away. Yeah, super unfortunate with that. And I even had the full magic drop in the mummy room and just didn't do it right to top off the magic. So it's like, oh well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's not the easiest dungeon to have full magic at the end of. So
I'll just say that I'll probably would have died anyway on like Fighter Sword Green Mail against that. So I'm like, it was fine. I was gonna die anyway, so no harm, no foul. But so you never know. I could have pulled it out, but yeah, well, it happens. So yeah, GG again, my friend, and we're gonna meet up again on Sunday afternoon. I'm out of town tomorrow, but yeah, we're going to meet up again, and hopefully Game 2 goes better for me. So I just want to thank you guys for your comms today, Centipede, the tracker, and everybody for watching. I was taunting chat earlier in the earlier game when I'm like, hey guys, go ahead and make fun of me too, because I was seeing other people questioning like, oh, why would they go here and stuff. Like, go ahead, chat, do it to me, but it's fine. I deserve all that. So there was definitely some questioning needed here. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next mission.
One last thing I want to piggyback off of Hydra. Hydra's a really cool dude. GG's to you, my friend. We will meet on Sunday for Game 2, and very awesome runner. He bounced me from the Casual Boots tournament last year, so
that's right.
It's nice to
play him again,
so to say. I won't say nothing about the results, more just to play him again, because I haven't played him since.
Yeah, the backstory with that is Josh Bittner's Casual Boots tournament. We were in the same group, and I believe we split the 2 games that we had to play.
Yeah,
and then it ended up being a tiebreaker needed, so it was like a Game 3 rubber match. So I was like messaging him in Discord like, hey dude, are you around? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, you're not dead. Yeah, no, come on, let's play. But yeah, he's a super cool dude, and so I'm also glad to play him again here. And so we're gonna do it again Sunday. So we'll see you guys then. Take care.
Yep. And I do want to just say, both of you, thanks for the run as well, because A, we'd have nothing to talk about without it. And B, I mean, Hydrapower had some of the mishaps there, but other than that, it was pretty clean and well run on both sides, I think. Like, there's the specific things you can point to, but there's also a lot of reason to just be really excited for that race on Sunday. So I will definitely be looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for the wonderful job y'all did tracking and commentating. And thanks again. See you soon.
Yep. Let's run down the schedule a little bit here. We've got races coming up. We've actually got 2 Game 3s coming up in about an hour for anybody watching this live. We'll have Game 3 of Ninjembro versus Big Dunka on this channel, SpeedGaming, in about an hour. And at the same time, 7:10 p.m. Eastern, we'll have Game 3 P-Train versus Telethar on the ALTTP randomizer channel. Then after that, an hour after that, at 8:10 p.m. Eastern, we've got another pair of races. Got Slapshot Fred versus Shula Ninja on SpeedGaming 3. And yet another Game 3, Lin versus Hitman on SpeedGaming 2. Then capping off the night, 9:10 p.m. Eastern, Game 3 of Zelgadison versus Flipheel. So, a lot of high-stakes races still to come this evening for anybody watching live. Check them out. They're going to be good.
And really hype matches already in round 1 of this tournament. So it's only going to get better as we go along. So, give SpeedGaming a follow. Join us in the Discord for the tournament, maybe. And, just keep your eye out for more of these great races.
Yep. And then I had fun commentating with you, man. So we'll see you guys some other race.
Always a good time. Yeah, hope we can do it again soon.
Yep. See you, everybody.